Please let me go free. I want to go beneath the earth and be with her. As husband and wife, the last thing the sexagenarian husband did before dying was to divorce Shin Mingyue, then turn around and enter into a ghost marriage with his first love who had committed suicide in her early years. In her twilight years, Shin Mingyue became the biggest joke in Beijing's elite circles, living her second life. She decided to step aside and let those two have their love unto death. She unilaterally announced to the media the cancellation of her wedding with Fu Wenjing, then booked a flight abroad. Afterwards, she notified Fu Wenjing to go save his first love, Mu Qingqing, who was about to kill herself. Half an hour later, the door was pushed open, and Fu Wenjing walked in carrying the unconscious Mu Qingqing. His trench coat, usually immaculate, was now in disarray. Shin Mingyue was about to step forward when she heard Fu Wenjing comforting the woman in his arms. Qingqing, in this life, I will never let you fall into despair and attempt suicide. I must change everything. She froze. Fu Wenjing, have you also been reborn? Fu Wenjing glanced at her in surprise, and realizing something, gave an almost imperceptible nod. He walked past her and carried Mu Qingqing straight into the master bedroom to settle her in. Shin Mingyue did not stop him after he had settled Mu Qingqing and came back out. Fu Wenjing spoke bluntly, since we've both been reborn, you should know that Qingqing now has depression. In the previous life, she committed suicide after hearing about our wedding. In this life, I'm going to save her, so our wedding in a week is cancelled. I'm going to marry her. Shin Mingyue looked up at the man before her. In their previous life, they had been husband and wife for decades, able to understand each other's thoughts with a single glance. She gave a bitter smile and nodded. I know that Mu Qingqing's death in the previous life left you with a lifelong regret. In this lifetime, I'll step aside tactfully and wish you both well. Seeing Shin Mingyue so magnanimous, Fu Wenjing frowned, inexplicably displeased. I know this is unfair to you, but Qingqing never meant to break us apart. Her only wish is to have a ceremonial wedding with me, in name only. Once Qingqing's wish is fulfilled and she stops trying to harm herself, I will still get a marriage license with you, just like in the previous life, and we will remain husband and wife. Shin Mingyue found it ironic, so in this second chance at life, Fu Wenjing wanted to have it both ways. He was probably used to her doting care as his decorative wife, yet reluctant to let go of his childhood friend. Without another word to him, she turned and went back to her room to pack her things. Fu Wenjing took her hand. Don't throw a tantrum. Where can you go on a freezing snowy night like this? This is our wedding chamber. You're still the lady of this house. You can stay here. No one is driving you out. Listening to him speak with that same feigned tenderness as in the previous life, Shin Mingyue felt nothing but disgust. Which wedding house has two mistresses? If I'm not leaving, are you willing to let Mu Qingqing go? As soon as Shin Mingyue finished speaking, Mu Qingqing, who had been unconscious moments ago, ran out of the room and interrupted her tearfully. Sister Mingyue, don't blame brother Wenjing, it was me. Shamelessly clinging to him, then Mu Qingqing rushed up to her, fell to her knees with a thud, and tugged at her arm, pleading, I know you and brother Wenjing are a perfect match socially, but I have a serious illness, and I'm about to die. I just want to spend a little more time with him before I die. Could you be kind and let me have brother Wenjing for a few days? Let me experience what it feels like to be his wife. Shin Mingyue, stung by the grip, struggled instinctively. Let go of me first. For some reason, Mu Qingqing suddenly pushed hard, and both of them fell backward due to the momentum. Shin Mingyue instinctively reached out to grab Fu Wenjing, but saw him unhesitatingly go to catch Mu Qingqing instead. Qingqing, don't be afraid, I'm here. He shielded Mu Qingqing as they stepped back, watching helplessly as she tumbled down the stairs. Too, with a loud crash, Shin Mingyue fell hard, her head bleeding, dizzy and disoriented. She finally managed to gather herself. Looking up, she saw Fu Wenjing covering Mu Qingqing's eyes. Don't look, Qingqing. You faint at the sight of blood, you'll feel unwell again. In that instant, Shin Mingyue's heart turned utterly cold, but Fu Wenjing turned to look at her, eager to defend Mu Qingqing. Qingqing just lost control of her emotions and accidentally pushed you. Don't blame her. Shin Mingyue felt an even sharper pain in her head, and she clutched her still bleeding wound as she demanded, I nearly fell to my death. And all you can say is it was an accident. But Fu Wenjing only furrowed his brow. It's not that serious, it was just an accident. You've lived so many more years than Qingqing. What harm is there in being a little understanding toward her? Shin Mingyue felt a pent-up rage stuck in her chest, almost unable to breathe. In her previous life, ever since Mu Qingqing resolutely committed suicide, she already knew that Fu Wenjing no longer loved her. Little did she expect that not only would he compensate Mu Qingqing himself, but he would also naturally force her to endure the grievance from the corner of her eye, she saw Mu Qingqing glance over triumphantly and then hold Fu Wenjing tightly right in front of her. Wenjing, I'm so touched that you stand up for me like this. We grew up together, and I've always liked you. Even when I was so sick I was nearly dying, I still liked you. You agreed to have a wedding with me. You have feelings for me too, don't you? Tell me, do you love me? Shen Mingyue suddenly held her breath, staring intently at them. Her gaze was so intense that Fu Wenjing glanced at her. Their eyes met. She saw the complex emotions in his eyes and thought he would deny it, but in the next moment, he spoke in his uniquely gentle voice. Of course I love you. After finally confirming this, Shen Mingyue felt a sense of relief deep down. Her wound was bandaged by 2 in the morning, so Shen Mingyue simply stayed in the hospital. Lying on the hospital bed, she received a message. International Airlines reminds you, your ticket has been booked successfully. Please check your flight information and board on time. Seeing this message, Shen Mingyue finally felt a bit better. Soon she would be able to leave Jing City and stop watching Fu Wenjing and Mu Qingqing's romantic exchanges. Just as she was about to save the flight information, her phone was snatched away. Shen Mingyue looked up and saw Fu Wenjing. Not knowing when he had arrived, he stared at the flight information on his phone, his lips pressed together as if he were very angry. You want to go abroad? Are you trying to force me to break up with Qingqing by running off right now? Shen Mingyue choked, but she still told the truth. I'm only going abroad to continue the dance career I gave up in my previous life. Before she could finish, Fu Wenjing interrupted. Didn't you say in your past life that you weren't suited for dance and didn't like it? Annoyance flickered between his brows. He thought she was making excuses, but Shen Mingyue felt a chill in her heart. In her previous life, she gave up dancing to take care of Fu Wenjing. He had a busy job and severe stomach issues, so she specially learned the skills of a state banquet chef. She supervised his meals 3 times a day, never daring to leave him for a single day to keep him from feeling guilty. She took the initiative to say she was simply unsuited for dance. It never occurred to her that her concessions to Fu Wenjing would one day become the blade he used against her. Seeing Shen Mingyue fall silent, Fu Wenjing assumed she was feeling guilty. His voice grew even colder. Enough, I don't have time to argue with you right now. In the previous life, I gave you everything a Mrs. Fu deserved and fulfilled my promise to take care of you for life. In this life, I hope you'll stop getting in the way of me making it up to Qingqing. Shen Mingyue laughed at this. Did Fu Wenjing really think she wanted to go abroad because she was jealous of him? But her jealousy had long been exhausted in her past life. She smiled and said, don't worry, I won't get in your way. Then behave yourself and don't make a scene about leaving. Fu Wenjing's expression finally softened. Get some rest. Tomorrow is my mother's birthday banquet, and she really wants Qingqing to be there. I'll take Qingqing there first, then come back to pick you up. With that, he turned and left. After he left, Shen Mingyue contacted her parents and explained the matter of separating from Fu Wenjing. When the 2 elders learned that she had been wronged, they immediately agreed to call off the engagement and asked her to return to them at once. Shen Mingyue felt a warmth in her heart and nodded in agreement. After hanging up, Shen Mingyue decided to take the opportunity of attending the birthday banquet to make the annulment clear to Fu's mother. She thought Fu's mother should be willing as well. After all, Mu Qingqing was the daughter of Fu's mother's best friend, and Fu's mother had always regarded Mu Qingqing as her future daughter-in-law since childhood. By letting go this time, they would have their wish fulfilled, which could be considered a happy ending for everyone. Shen Mingyue waited at the hospital until noon, but Fu Wenjing did not come to pick her up. She called him, but no one answered, so Shen Mingyue had no choice but to go to the banquet by herself. Little did she know, the moment she arrived at the old Fu residence, she saw Fu's mother leading Fu Wenjing with one hand and Mu Qingqing with the other, ascending the high platform. Everyone, I have a joyous announcement. 6 days from now, my son Fu Wenjing and Mu Qingqing will hold a grand wedding at the largest hotel in the capital. Everyone is welcome to come and celebrate. 3. Shen Mingyue stood alone in place, showing no reaction, yet some guests at the banquet noticed her and began gossiping. Everyone in the capital knows that Mu Qingqing is the one Mr. Fu truly loves. Even Fu's mother has always wanted Mu Qingqing as her daughter-in-law. Shen Mingyue only got Fu Wenjing to be with her by leveraging the cooperation between the Shen and Fu families. Now she's finally been publicly humiliated. I heard Shen Mingyue's parents are abroad. Do they know how humiliated she is? Loud jeers echoed through the banquet hall, yet Fu Mu and Fu Wenjing acted as if they hadn't heard a thing, not even offering an explanation. Shen Mingyue's hand tightened slightly, then relaxed. In her previous life, Fu Wenjing had insisted on a ghost marriage with Mu Qingqing, and Shen Mingyue had heard words 100 times more scathing than this. There Was no need for her to take this minor ridicule to heart now. She looked at Fu Wenjing and watched as he led Mu Qingqing across the manor's fountain and came to stand before her, smiling. He said casually, "It's good that you're here. Qingqing said she wants to invite you to the wedding, you must come." With that, he pressed the invitation into her hand in a manner that brooked no refusal. Shen Mingyue felt a pang of scorn in her heart when she saw the wedding invitation personally written by Fu Wenjing in her previous life. Because of Mu Qingqing's death, Fu Wenjing claimed he didn't give her a wedding for fear that his mother would be too grieved. Because she loved Fu Wenjing, she gave in to everything he wanted. It wasn't until Fu Wenjing exposed the fake marriage certificate that she learned the truth. The reason Fu Wenjing didn't hold a wedding wasn't out of concern for his mother, it was simply that he didn't want to. In this life, Shen Mingyue would no longer settle for less. Suppressing the grievances of 2 lifetimes, she closed the invitation. "I won't be attending the wedding. I came to dissolve the marital alliance and cooperation between the Fu and Shen families." She was about to leave the country soon and wouldn't be there by the time they got married. As soon as she finished speaking, Fu Wenjing's expression changed. He let go of Mu Qingqing to pull Shen Mingyue closer, urging anxiously, "Why do you want to break off the engagement again, and why joke about the cooperation between our families? Didn't I tell you? The wedding with Qingqing is just a formality. Once her wish is fulfilled, I'll truly marry you and get the license. Why can't you understand?" Before Shen Mingyue could speak, Mu Qingqing knelt again, kowtowing and crying as she begged her, "Sister Mingyue, please don't use the family cooperation to threaten brother Wenjing. He still loves you. I don't have many days left. Just let me marry him to satisfy my wish, then I'll return him to you and go die." "Alright." As soon as Mu Qingqing knelt, Fu Wenjing's heart ached for her. He helped her up, his expression darkening. He reproached Shen Mingyue, "What exactly do you want? Are you only satisfied when you've driven Qingqing to her death?" Shen Mingyue clearly gave them her blessing, yet she was still cast as the villain. Her expression was calm. "I didn't force her. I simply made it possible for you two to be together." Gazing at the cold-faced man before her, she finally voiced the question that had long weighed on her mind. "Fu Wenjing, have you ever considered that our wedding invitations have already gone out? You cancel our wedding to marry someone else. My parents are prominent figures. Where does that leave their pride?" Then she gestured toward the crowd of guests in the manor. "And have you heard what they're saying about me?" Shen Mingyue looked directly at Fu Wenjing and caught a flicker of guilt in his eyes. Her heart grew even heavier. So Fu Wenjing did know he was wronging her, yet he still insisted on mistreating her. Having said all there was to say, Shen Mingyue turned and walked away, but before she could take a few steps, Mu Qingqing suddenly ran over and blocked her way. "Mingyue, don't fight with Wenjing because of me." The next second, Mu Qingqing gave a sharp cry and fell hard to the ground, accusing her tearfully. "Mingyue, why did you push me?" Shen Mingyue was so angry that her face turned cold. Before she could retort, Fu Wenjing rushed up and shoved her aside. Fu Wenjing helped Mu Qingqing up with concern, while Mu Qingqing sobbed breathlessly. "Wenjing, Mingyue knocked the ring you gave me into the water. That was our engagement ring. It seems she still won't accept us being together. I might as well just die." Before she could finish, Fu Wenjing immediately interrupted her nervously. "Don't talk nonsense. As long as you stay alive, you can do whatever you want." A flash of cruelty crossed Mu Qingqing's eyes. "Then I want Mingyue to jump into the water and only come back up after she finds the ring you gave me. For in the freezing cold, jumping into the water could be deadly." Fu Wenjing looked up and met Shen Mingyue's eyes. She clearly saw a flicker of reluctance in his gaze, but in the end, he still called the bodyguards. "Throw Shen Mingyue into the water." Shen Mingyue immediately snapped, "Whoever dares to push me, I'll make sure they can't survive in this city by tomorrow." After speaking, she turned her gaze to Fu Wenjing. "Fu Wenjing, the Shen family is also an influential clan. My status is no worse than yours. Just try hurting me." While Shen Mingyue stopped holding back, and Fu Wenjing was somewhat surprised by the personality she had just revealed, Mu Qingqing suddenly called out, "Wenjing Gij, let's retrieve the ring tomorrow. Didn't you say you'd take commemorative photos with me? Let's go inside and take them now." Fu Wenjing immediately shifted his attention away from Shen Mingyue, hastily saying, "Alright, let's head inside. It's too cold out here." With that, the two turned to leave. Hearing the commotion, Fu Wenjing's mother rushed out. "Shen Mingyue, this isn't the Shen house. What's with this spoiled young lady act? You're no longer Wenjing's fiancé. You have no right to linger in the Fu family. Get lost." Shen Mingyue didn't respond, just looked at Fu Wenjing. Their eyes met, and she could clearly see the reluctance in his, but the next moment, he averted his gaze. "Can't you see you're not welcome here? Get out." Furious, Shen Mingyue laughed instead. She fixed her eyes on Fu Wenjing and enunciated every word. Remember what you said today. I will never set foot in the Fu family home again. With that, Shen Mingyue turned and walked out of the Fu family's old residence, having spent too long with them in the snowy weather. Shen Mingyue, already injured, came down with a high fever that very night. She immediately had her driver take her to the hospital. When she woke up, it was already daylight. Her fever had also gone down significantly, and she was about to pay and leave when she ran into Fu Wenjing supporting Mu Qingqing in the hallway. Seeing her, Mu Qingqing immediately leaned into Fu Wenjing's arms and said with feigned shyness, "Wenjing, don't you like children? The doctor just said during the premarital checkup that I have a fertile constitution. How about I give you a child?" Shen Mingyue couldn't help but raise an eyebrow at Fu Wenjing, but he didn't dare look at her, yet he gently replied to Mu Qingqing, "All right, Qingqing will give me a child. Go get the premarital checkup report first. I'll be right there." Mu Qingqing immediately beamed, glanced at Shen Mingyue with a triumphant look, and left. When they were alone, Fu Wenjing reached out with concern to hold Shen Mingyue. "Why did you come to the hospital? Are you sick?" Shen Mingyue dodged his hand and asked calmly, "You like children? I remember you didn't say that in the previous life." Perhaps her gaze was too sharp. Fu Wenjing, feeling guilty and silenced, pressed his lips together without answering. Shen Mingyue's eyes flickered, and she almost couldn't help but let out a bitter, self-mocking laugh. "In our past life, I got pregnant just 6 months after we married. Your mother deliberately plied me with alcohol at the Fu family banquet, and I drank so much that I miscarried. I was heartbroken. You rushed back early from your business trip, told me you never liked children, found them noisy, and said you couldn't bear to see me suffer through childbirth, so I never mentioned having children again, went along with contraception, and lived a childless life with you to the very end. But now, with Mu Qingqing, he says he likes children." She looked at him quietly and asked, "Fu Wenjing, how much did you lie to me in our past life?" Her words were clearly soft, yet they struck Fu Wenjing's heart like a heavy hammer, throwing him into panic. He lowered his voice and explained, "Mingyue, what I just said about having a child with Qingqing was just to make her happy. You know my marriage to Qingqing is fake, just a wedding ceremony. How could I possibly have a child with her?" His words were sincere, but Shen Mingyue only stepped back, putting distance between them. "No need to explain. Whether you get legally married to Mu Qingqing or have a child has nothing to do with me." She simply felt sorrow for her past life. Fortunately, she had seen the light in this life and would not repeat her mistakes. Her expression was calm, but Fu Wenjing suddenly grew tense. He held Shen Mingyue tightly, refusing to let her leave. "How could this have nothing to do with you? I told you, everything I do now is to make up for the regrets of my past life and prevent Qingqing from committing suicide out of despair. Are you trying to push Qingqing into dying of despair again?" Shen Mingyue was speechless. When had she ever pushed Mu Qingqing? Seeing Shen Mingyue's silence, Fu Wenjing thought she had taken his words to heart. "Both you and Qingqing are very important to me. I won't abandon either of you. You've always been soft-hearted and kind. You can understand me, can't you?" After saying this, Shen Mingyue raised her eyes to look at him and couldn't resist playing a little prank. "What if I force you to make a choice? Will you choose me or Mu Qingqing?" Fu Wenjing struggled for a moment, then said to her apologetically, "I'm sorry." He paused before continuing, "In my past life, I swore before Qingqing's grave that as long as she could live well, I would be willing to give up even my own life." 5. Shen Mingyue was not surprised that Fu Wenjing chose Mu Qingqing. She just found the assurance he had just given her utterly ridiculous. She shook off Fu Wenjing's hand and no longer wanted to keep up the act. "If that's the case, then there's nothing left for us to say." Fu Wenjing frowned, about to say something else, but the phone in his pocket rang. He pulled out the phone and answered it, his expression immediately turning anxious. "How did you sprain your ankle, Qingqing? Wait for me, I'll be right there." With that, he could no longer spare Shen Mingyue a thought, leaving only the words, "Wait for me, I'll come find you again later." Shen Mingyue ignored him completely and went to the first-floor lobby to pay the fees. As soon as she finished paying, she saw Mother Fu storming over furiously. Mother Fu's face was ashen as she threw a document at her. "Shen Mingyue, don't you dare threaten my son by canceling the cooperation between our two families. That will only make Wenjing loathe you even more." Shen Mingyue took the document, glanced at the 4 bold characters, "Cancel cooperation" on the contract, and understood that her father was standing up for her. She calmly closed the document. "This is not a threat. First, you announced publicly at the birthday banquet that Fu Wenjing was going to marry Mu Qingqing, which embarrassed my parents. It's only natural they want to get back at you. Second, The cooperation between the Fu and Shen families exists only because Fu Wenjing and I were supposed to get married. Now that I'm not getting married, the Shen family will have many options. So why must they choose to betray my Fu family? Fu's mother choked on her words. How dare you speak to me like that? She raised her hand to hit Shen Mingyue, but Shen Mingyue blocked it. Mrs. Fu, I'm about to go abroad and will never get in the way of your son and daughter-in-law's marriage again. Shouldn't you be happy? Fu's mother paused, her face a mix of disbelief. You gave up your beloved dance career for Wenjing, the one you've loved since childhood, so would you really be willing to let him go? Shen Mingyue listened with self-mockery. Even Fu's mother knew she had given up her beloved dance for Fu Wenjing. Only Fu Wenjing thought she didn't love dance. The one who is favored never treasures love. Shen Mingyue took out her phone, pulled up the flight information, and showed it to Mother Fu, her expression calm. I booked a flight to go abroad. I'm leaving tonight, and I won't be coming back. Mother Fu immediately perked up and said with a sneer, you should have left long ago. Clinging on and getting in the way of Wenjing and Qingqing's relationship is just annoying. You leaving the country is good for everyone. Shen Mingyue was about to ignore her when behind her came Fu Wenjing's puzzled voice. Who's going abroad? The two turned around and saw Fu Wenjing carefully helping Mu Qingqing walk over. Mother Fu's expression tightened at once. She hurried to Mu Qingqing's side and asked, Qingqing, how are you? Is your sprain serious? It's just a bit swollen. Applying some ointment will help, Fu Wenjing said, then looked at Shen Mingyue. Mingyue, since you're here, wait for me to get the ointment for Qingqing, and we can go back together. Sensing Mother Fu's wary gaze, Shen Mingyue shook her head and declined. No, I have things to do. After saying that, she tried to walk around them and leave, but then Mu Qingqing suddenly pretended to be shy as she reached out her hand and shoved the diamond ring on her finger right in front of her face. Sister Mingyue, look, this is the wedding ring Brother Wenjing picked out for me yesterday. We've decided to move the wedding date up. He also gave me the rose garden you used to love. He promised to pull out the roses and plant my favorite multicolored violets with his own hands. When it's done, I'll invite you to come see it. Hearing this clumsy display of showing off, Shen Mingyue turned to look at Fu Wenjing. Fu Wenjing coughed awkwardly and explained, Mingyue, I'll find you another garden. Just let Qingqing have the rose garden. He said it as if it were only natural, probably in his eyes. Shen Mingyue, who loved him, would go along with any decision he made. Shen Mingyue couldn't be bothered to argue. She just smiled and said, it's your garden, arrange it however you like. I have no objections. You two go ahead. I'm leaving first. She was clearly smiling, but Fu Wenjing felt an inexplicable unease. He couldn't help letting go of Mu Qingqing and chasing after Shen Mingyue. He asked anxiously, can't you wait for me to get the medicine so we can go back together? Where are you rushing off to? Shen Mingyue looked at him calmly and did not hide the truth. To the airport. 6. Fu Wenjing's face instantly darkened. You're causing trouble again about going abroad, didn't I tell you? Right now everything must be about making it up to Qingqing first. Once she stops attempting suicide, we can live a proper life together. He deliberately lowered his voice. Mingyue, you were very sensible in your past life. You lived so many years, so why are you acting like a child after being reborn? Shen Mingyue stared at him and gave a sarcastic smile. That's right, I was very sensible in my past life. Because I was sensible, I endured your mother's torment in my past life and lost the child I had just conceived. Because I was sensible, you could lie to me for a lifetime with a fake marriage certificate, only telling me at the end of your life that the person you truly loved was Mu Qingqing. In this life, she didn't want to be sensible anymore. Fu Wenjing's stern expression finally cracked, revealing a rare trace of guilt and a guilty conscience. He reached out and pulled her into his arms, whispering apologetically, Mingyue, I'm sorry, I know that having the wedding with Qingqing really made you feel wronged, but I know you won't leave me. We've both lived 2 lifetimes already, so let's not act like a young couple throwing a tantrum. Once Qingqing's condition stabilizes, I will definitely make it up to you. Shen Mingyue was a bit confused. Why did Fu Wenjing insist that she still loved him, refusing to accept that she had already let him go? People change, and people get tired. She pushed him away. You and I don't have a lifetime together anymore. Fu Wenjing seemed not to have heard clearly and asked, what did you say? Shen Mingyue was about to speak when she heard Mu Qingqing's tearful voice not far away. Wenjing, my foot really hurts. Can you rub it for me? Fu Wenjing, upon hearing this, immediately stopped worrying about Shen Mingyue and hastily instructed, I'm going to check on Qingqing first. When you're done, head back to our wedding house. Mom is furious right now and will say harsh things, so don't go to the old Fu residence and endure her temper. The the wedding house is where we've lived together for 3 years, just go back. No one can drive you away." Shen Mingyue watched him walk away, then said, "Fu Wenjing, you were banished by me long ago." After today, they would never see each other again. Only when Fu Wenjing had carried Mu Qingqing away did Shen Mingyue look away, walk to the main street, and hail a taxi. The taxi took her all the way to the airport. At the airport, the flight boarded on time. Meanwhile, Shen Mingyue received a video from Mu Qingqing. In the frame, Fu Wenjing knelt on one knee before Mu Qingqing, gently applying medicine to her swollen ankle with a tender and cherishing expression. Mu Qingqing asked, "Brother Wenjing, if Sister Mingyue really leaves you in a huff, would you call off our wedding?" Fu Wenjing answered without hesitation, "No." Upon hearing this, Mu Qingqing happily kissed Fu Wenjing, and her look toward the camera was full of smugness. Shen Mingyue finished watching the video, knowing that Mu Qingqing sent it just to provoke her and make her sad, but she felt nothing. She opened the chat and replied to Mu Qingqing, "I've already emigrated. Congratulations to you too. May you be together forever," and locked tight. After hitting send, she blocked all contact methods of Fu Wenjing and Mu Qingqing. Then she went with the flow of the crowd and boarded the plane. Fu Wenjing did not love her, but on the other side of the sea, someone who would love her was waiting. The other side, Fu Wenjing spent the day with Mu Qingqing and only brought her back to the bridal chamber after dark. As he entered, he suddenly felt a jolt in his heart. His chest felt hollow, as if he had lost something important. Mu Qingqing was clinging to his arm, acting coquettishly. "Wenjing, we're about to have our wedding. Does that make me the lady of the Fu household? Can you take me back to the Fu residence?" Fu Wenjing subconsciously agreed, "You can go anytime you want. Mingyue knows that place well. I'll have her take you to the Fu residence." As he spoke, he remembered that Shen Mingyue should have returned by now, and glanced around. In the past, when he came back at this hour, Shen Mingyue would be waiting for him in the hall. Why wasn't she here today? Fu Wenjing frowned, a vague sense of foreboding rising in his heart. "Mingyue." No one answered. The housekeeper came out of the kitchen and said, "Mr. Fu, Miss Mingyue hasn't come back." The unease in Fu Wenjing's heart suddenly spread through his entire body. He took out his phone to contact Shen Mingyue, when Mu Qingqing cheerfully shoved a phone message in front of him. "Brother Wenjing, stop looking. Sister Mingyue said she has already emigrated abroad, and she also congratulated us on our everlasting happiness together." 7. Fu Wenjing's heart skipped a beat upon hearing this. It was immediately followed by a surge of panic and anger. He repeated in disbelief, "Shen Mingyue voluntarily left the country. How could that be? Hadn't she always been waiting for him to fulfill the wedding wish he owed Mu Qingqing from the previous life, so that they could truly get their marriage certificate and continue living a peaceful life together?" Decades of companionship in the past life had made him so accustomed to having Shen Mingyue by his side that the thought of separating from her had never crossed his mind. Shen Mingyue had always loved him deeply. How could she bear to leave him? Fu Wenjing's face darkened at Mu Qingqing's words. He immediately gripped Mu Qingqing's hand tightly, his dark eyes burning with anger as he demanded, "Did you say something to Mingyue to force her to go abroad? Otherwise, why would she leave when she's been waiting for our official wedding and ceremony?" Mu Qingqing's hand felt like it was being crushed under his grip. She cried out in pain, "Wenjing Gij." Her call brought Fu Wenjing back to his senses. He paused, let go, and felt a twinge of remorse. In his momentary confusion, he had used too much force, and Mu Qingqing's hand had swollen. Her lips pouted as she said resentfully, "By questioning me like this, Wenjing Gij, are you saying you don't trust my character? Sister Mingyue has always been strong-willed and has it in for me. She used to get jealous and trip me up. How could I possibly force her to go abroad? She left of her own accord." Fu Wenjing quickly comforted her, "I'm sorry, I got carried away. Of course I believe you're not that kind of person." Having suddenly learned that Shen Mingyue had truly left the country, he was lost in his own feelings and hadn't noticed hurting Mu Qingqing. Mu Qingqing was coaxed by him for a long time before she finally brightened up again. "Brother Wenjing, it's good that Sister Mingyue left. Otherwise, if she got too jealous on our wedding day and tried to harm me, our wedding wouldn't go smoothly. Don't think about her anymore. I'm so sleepy. Come lie down with me for a while." "Okay." She clung to Fu Wenjing's arm, refusing to let him leave. So he had no choice but to accompany her to the master bedroom to rest. Only after Mu Qingqing fell asleep did he finally walk out with a grim expression and call his assistant. As soon as the assistant arrived, he saw Fu Wenjing repeatedly making calls. The screen showed the contacts as Uncle Shen, Auntie Shen, and Shen Group, but no matter which number he tried, he couldn't get through. Fu Wenjing's expression grew darker by the minute. Finally, he tossed the phone to his assistant and gave a low, stern order: change the number, use a business partner's name to call them and find a way to re-establish contact. Also, look into when Shen Mingyue left the country, where she went, and find out where she is now, no matter the cost. Seeing the faint red veins appearing in Fu Wenjing's eyes, the assistant quickly nodded in agreement. Just as he was about to leave, he hesitated and asked, "President Fu, will your wedding with Miss Mu Qingqing still go ahead as planned?" Ever since Fu Wenjing changed the person he was marrying, his assistant had been working overtime to revise the wedding plans, rushing the production of a new wedding dress, and staying in constant contact with Fu Wenjing to discuss details. However, after learning that Shen Mingyue had indeed gone abroad, Fu Wenjing stopped responding to messages, so the assistant finally ventured to ask. Fu Wenjing glanced at the assistant and was about to answer when the door was suddenly pushed open. Fu's mother stormed in. Furiously, "What wedding, Wenjing? What's wrong with you? Did that shameless wretch Shen Mingyue say something to make you not want to marry Qingqing?" Fu Wenjing frowned. "Mom, don't talk about Mingyue like that." Fu's mother brushed it off. "So what if I do? Don't change the subject. Let me tell you now, the wedding must go ahead as planned. I won't have my Qingqing treated unfairly." With that, Fu's mother sat down on the sofa, looking as if she wouldn't leave until Fu Wenjing agreed. Fu Wenjing was silent for a moment, his gaze falling on the stunned assistant. His voice was low. "Didn't you hear what my mom said? Go on with the wedding preparations." 8. The wedding went on, and the wedding dress was quickly ready. Mu Qingqing, dressed in the beautiful gown, looked up and asked Fu Wenjing, "Wenjing, do I look beautiful? Am I the most beautiful bride you've ever seen?" Fu Wenjing smiled and nodded. "Qingqing is very beautiful." Mu Qingqing excitedly continued changing her look, eagerly discussing the upcoming wedding with her assistant. Fu Wenjing, who would normally have devoted all his attention to Mu Qingqing, now seemed somewhat distracted. He unconsciously found himself at the bridal suite he had once shared with Shen Mingyue. After Mu Qingqing moved in, at her coaxing and request, all traces of Shen Mingyue were gone. The couple's photo that once sat on the nightstand was no longer there, and of the matching pajamas that hung together in the closet, only his remained. Mu Qingqing had redecorated the place according to her own tastes, and only now did Fu Wenjing feel that everything around him had become unfamiliar. It was as if Shen Mingyue had never existed at all. In the past few days, he often opened the drawer to take out a peppermint candy, a habit Shen Mingyue had shared with him in his past life. Whenever work at the company became overwhelming, eating one would ease his agitation. But now, the drawer was filled with Mu Qingqing's perfumes, their scattered, clashing scents almost overpowering. Fu Wenjing looked around the unfamiliar room, and regret began to well up in his heart. He should never have agreed to clear out Shen Mingyue's things. It was just a ceremonial marriage with Mu Qingqing. There was no need to make it so real, only to end up hurting Shen Mingyue. Thinking this, he called for a servant. "The things of Mingyue that I had you clear out before, where are they? Take me to see them." The servant looked troubled as he led him to the guest room, hesitating before opening the door to offer a warning. "Mr. Fu, Miss Mu Qingqing packed all those things herself. Please don't be angry when you see them." The door opened, and Fu Wenjing immediately saw the shattered photo frame. The picture of him and Shen Mingyue was also damaged, and he couldn't help but darken his expression. But before he could say anything, a commotion erupted outside. A group of bodyguards was shouting loudly downstairs, "We're from the Shen family. Miss Shen Mingyue sent us to pick up her belongings." Hearing the noise, Fu Wenjing's eyes lit up, and he ordered them to be let in. "Could it be that Mingyue regretted it after going abroad and wants to make amends with me?" Before he could finish, the bodyguards politely interrupted him. "We were hired by Miss Shen's parents. We're professional debt collectors here to help pack Miss Shen's things, so no valuables get left behind. President Fu wouldn't be reluctant to part with them, would he?" Fu Wenjing's expression darkened, but he still suppressed his anger. "Where is Mingyue now? Is she trying to cut ties with me?" "Sorry, we're just paid to do a job. We don't know the answer to your question." Fu Wenjing had no choice but to let them take Shen Mingyue's belongings. Many of those items held memories between him and Shen Mingyue. Letting the bodyguards deliver them to her was fine. Shen Mingyue would keep them safe. Just then, his phone vibrated in his pocket. It was a message from his assistant, saying that Shen Mingyue's whereabouts had been found. His spirits lifted. He told his assistant to send over the detailed information, but then waited for a long time with no response. Losing patience, Fu Wenjing went directly to find his assistant. Unexpectedly, as she passed by Mu Qingqing's makeup-changing lounge, she heard Mu Qingqing's voice, as if threatening someone, low and tinged with intimidation. "Did you find out where Shen Mingyue went? Even if you find out, don't tell Brother Wenjing." I am Brother Wenjing's wife, about to have the wedding with him. As his assistant, you should maintain the harmony between me and Brother Wenjing and not help the other woman. 9. Fu Wenjing frowned deeply and pushed open the lounge door. Seeing him, Mu Qingqing's arrogant and threatening demeanor toward the assistant instantly crumbled. Her face turned pale, panic flashing in her eyes. Brother Wenjing, why are you here? Fu Wenjing looked at her and gave an unreadable Mu Qingqing, without waiting for him to ask, voluntarily confessed and tearfully said, Wenjing, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have told my assistant to hide where Mingyue went, but I didn't want you to know about this. I was so afraid you would chase after her and delay our wedding. Fu Wenjing didn't hold it against her. He even gently patted her head and said, it's fine, our wedding will go ahead smoothly. Mu Qingqing was overjoyed. It seemed she had overthought things. Fu Wenjing actually truly wanted to go through with the wedding. Previously, from bits and pieces of what Fu Wenjing and Shen Mingyue had said, she had guessed that the reason Fu Wenjing was so attentive to her and agreed to her request for a wedding was because he felt he owed her, though she didn't know what that debt was. Mu Qingqing had already figured out that Fu Wenjing indulged her in everything. No matter how Shen Mingyue stirred things up, she would still receive his favor, and once she truly married Fu Wenjing, no matter how much trouble Shen Mingyue caused, she wouldn't be able to take him away from her side. Filled with joy, Mu Qingqing hugged Fu Wenjing and said with a smile, I can't wait to marry you. Fu Wenjing smiled and steadied her. Amid Mu Qingqing's eager anticipation, the wedding took place as scheduled. Every guest attending the wedding blessed their union, saying they were a match made in heaven. They exchanged vows and rings, overflowing with happiness. Mu Qingqing beamed brightly, while Fu Wenjing wore a faint smile. They made a strikingly handsome couple. The wedding went smoothly until the end. After seeing off the guests, Fu's mother took her daughter-in-law, of whom she thoroughly approved, and her son back to the Fu residence. Then she smiled and urged Fu Wenjing, Wenjing, tomorrow morning, take Qingqing to get your marriage certificate, have a good life together, and hurry up and give me a big, healthy grandson. I can't wait to have a grandchild in my arms. Mu Qingqing was also overcome with shyness. Fu Wenjing had just changed out of his groom's attire. He froze upon hearing this. Mom, what are you talking about? Qingqing and I agreed it's just a ceremonial wedding to fulfill her wish. We're not getting a marriage certificate. At these words, the happy smile on Mu Qingqing's face suddenly stiffened. Fu's mother, too, was slow to recover from her shock. What do you mean, just a ceremony? That was only something Qingqing said to coax you into agreeing to the wedding. Fu's mother stopped mid-sentence, realizing she shouldn't have revealed those schemes. She quickly covered up by glaring and questioning him. Wenjing, now that you're married to Qingqing, how can you not get the certificate? There were so many guests today, they all know you married Qingqing. If you abandon her now, what will people think of her? Mu Qingqing also sobbed with grievance. Hearing this, Fu Wenjing reached out and patted Mu Qingqing's head as she teared up, promising, don't worry, with me here, no one dares to upset Qingqing in my presence. With these words, he turned to leave. Seeing this, a sense of dread rose in Mu Qingqing's heart. She immediately grabbed his arm and asked urgently, Wenjing Gij, where are you going? Fu Wenjing looked at the flight information his assistant had sent on his phone, his thoughts drifting. Shen Mingyue had been sulking long enough. It was time to let it go. He had already granted Mu Qingqing's wishes. The doctor said her condition had stabilized, and she would no longer have manic episodes or attempt suicide. He needed to fulfill his promise, to get the real marriage certificate with Shen Mingyue in this life, and continue living happily with her for the rest of their days. Under Mu Qingqing's tense gaze, Fu Wenjing did not hide the truth. I'm going to the airport. I need to bring Mingyue back. 10. Fu Wenjing had just gotten off the plane. To show the sincerity of his apology, he had stayed up all night, his eyes full of red veins. He brought only his assistant and visited father and mother Shen as a junior. President Fu, we found out Miss Shen Mingyue entered the company building half an hour ago. Fu Wenjing sat in the VIP lounge and nodded at these words. Though he had not slept all night, his spirits were high. A smile played on his usually cold, handsome face, causing the female employees of the Shen group to steal glances at him. His thoughts, however, began to drift away. After resolving the regrets of his previous life, he did not feel the satisfaction he had imagined. Instead, it was as if a piece of his heart was missing. He could not help but think of the time he had spent with Shen Mingyue. In their past life, they had loved each other, naturally married, and accompanied one another their entire lives. Shen Mingyue had remained deeply devoted to him, growing old together with him. Fu Wenjing thought of all that had happened in his previous life and felt even more certain that he loved Shen Mingyue more in this life. They had returned to their youth, he would cherish her, explore a future different from their past life, and walk hand in hand with her toward an even happier life than before. Of course, before all that, he owed Shen Mingyue an apology in the past few days, while making amends to Mu Qingqing and resolving the regrets of his previous life. He had neglected Shen Mingyue far too much and even made her suffer. He needed to make it up to her. Fiddling with the delicate little gift box in his hand, Fu Wenjing's gaze grew softer than ever. I personally picked out this diamond ring. I wonder if Mingyue will like it. Before the murmured ending faded, Shen Mother's assistant came downstairs, a complete shift from the warm initial greeting. The assistant coldly called for the bodyguards. The madam says Miss Shen has no fiancé. This man is a fraud. Kick him out. At these words, the Shen Corporation employees who had been sneaking glances buzzed with commotion. And Fu Wenjing's expression stiffened abruptly seeing the bodyguard step forward on command. Fu Wenjing's face darkened. Just as he was about to speak, a questioning voice came from outside. What's going on here? Looking up, it was Shen Father entering cheerfully from outside. He paused slightly, then, ignoring the bodyguards coming to seize him, he stepped forward and gave a slight bow in front of Shen Father. Uncle Shen, I'm here to see Mingyue. The moment Shen Father saw Fu Wenjing, his smile vanished. Who's your uncle? Our Mingyue doesn't know you, either, old mister. Shen's face was cold as he pulled over a tall, handsome young man beside him and emphasized each word. See this is Mingyue's new boyfriend. He can call me uncle. You cannot. Fu Wenjing's face turned pale, but he still suppressed his temper and replied, Uncle Shen, Mingyue is in love with me. Even if I've wronged her, you can't go against her wishes and find her a boyfriend on your own. He simply didn't believe Shen Mingyue would find someone else. He wouldn't even deign to look at the so-called rival. Old mister, Shen laughed in anger. Who loves you? You've married someone else. And you still expect Mingyue to love you? Dream on. Security, what are you waiting for? Throw him out. Old mister, Shen didn't bother reasoning with Fu Wenjing, nor did he want him to have any further connection with Shen Mingyue. After venting his anger, he chose the same path as Mrs. Shen, to have the man thrown out. This was the Shen family's turf. No way Fu Wenjing could have the upper hand here. After sending the security forward, old mister, Shen led the young man beside him upstairs. Yuza, I just used you as a shield. Don't be angry. Alright. Lin Yuza's refined brows and eyes were warm with a smile. Don't say that, Uncle Shen. I'm more than happy to be associated with Shen Mingyue was something he greatly welcomed. Shen's father's eyes crinkled with delight. That's what I like about you. Such a good kid devoted to our Mingyue. That Fu Wenjing, acting like no one wants our daughter. As they spoke, the elevator reached the top floor. Shen's father was about to step out when he heard Shen Mingyue ask, Dad, why did you bring up Fu Wenjing? Did you run into him? 11. Shen's father froze at the sound of his daughter's voice. The last thing he wanted was for Shen Mingyue to find out Fu Wenjing was downstairs, so he quickly shook his head. No, I was just cursing him out. Shen Mingyue had only asked offhandedly, although Shen's parents never said anything in front of her these past few days. She had inadvertently witnessed more than 10 times the couple cursing Fu Wenjing behind her back. Upon hearing this, she didn't ask further, only offering a helpless piece of advice. I really don't care about Fu Wenjing anymore. Don't dwell on him and make yourself sick. Shen's father nodded vaguely with a few ahm-hom sounds, clearly just going through the motions. Shen Mingyue felt even more helpless. She shifted her gaze onto Lin Yuza, who had stepped out of the elevator with her father. He smiled at her, his handsome features soft, enough to make any woman who saw him blush and lose her composure. Even Shen Mingyue was dazzled for a moment, then, out of politeness, offered a slight smile in return. Seeing this, Shen's father grew enthusiastic and introduced them. Mingyue, this is the grandson of an old friend of mine, Lin Yuza. He came to see me while on a work trip. He's a painter. You two are in the arts, so you share common ground. Feel free to chat more when you have time. Shen's father looked at his daughter, muttering silently to himself, oh, the bright moon, your old man here has made a cross-generational friend, all to help Lin Yujie get close to you. The whole family has been scheming for this, but scheming just to have contact with Shen Mingyue, and the cross-generational friend has built the relationship with Shen's father in good faith. As for Lin Yujie, he never thought of disturbing Shen Mingyue while she was dating Fu Wenjing, didn't even attempt to get to know her. His attitude is impeccably proper. So Shen's father doesn't dislike him. A family like that has solid moral character and will surely treat Shen Mingyue with great respect in any interaction. Shen's father feels that this is far better than Fu Wenjing's mother, who has a sharp personality and would bully Shen Mingyue. and even better than Fu Wenjing himself, unaware of her father's thoughts. Shen Mingyue politely greeted Lin Yujie and then continued discussing dance with Julia. In her previous life, she had not touched dance for many years. By the time she was reborn, she had gradually fallen out of practice due to dating and marriage, so there was still much to catch up on. To her surprise, while she and Julia were talking about dance, Lin Yujie was actually able to join the conversation and even offer some suggestions. My cousin back home is majoring in this, and she has a dance troupe that's currently short on hands, Lin Yuza said with a smile. Extending the invitation naturally, Miss Shen, would you consider it? Your foundation is very solid. My cousin would definitely want to recruit you if she saw you. Shen Mingyue blushed from the compliment. Excited, she looked at Julia, who nodded in agreement. Yes, you need the stage. Let the stage correct your shortcomings and showcase your progress. While you learn, you'd better join the troupe and practice together. Shen Mingyue then made up her mind. I'd like to, Mr. Lin, please help me get in touch with your cousin. Lin Yuza gazed at the confidence and determination gradually emerging on Shen Mingyue's face. His eyes filled with admiration. Happy to be of service, Miss Shen. Shen Mingyue laughed. No need to be so polite, just call me Mingyue. Alright, Mingyue, you can also call me Yuza. Lin Yuza quickly got in touch with his cousin Lin Shui, who was very welcoming to Shen Mingyue joining the dance troupe. But the troupe's training is quite insular and the schedule is very demanding. Before you fully integrate here, you'll need at least 1 to 2 years of close training. Is that okay with you? Lin Shui asked seriously, and Shen Mingyue nodded without hesitation. No problem. She joined the troupe's training, only able to come out occasionally to meet with her family. Julia, as her teacher, also stayed with her throughout, guiding her training. She immersed herself completely in dance, almost losing track of time until one day, a year later, after finishing her training, she was scrolling through her phone while chatting with her parents and making dinner reservations when she collided with a man and nearly fell. The next moment, the man pulled her tightly into his arms. Startled, she was about to struggle when a familiar voice reached her ears. Mingyue, it's me. She looked up and met Fu Wenjing's longing gaze. 12 Shen Mingyue still pushed Fu Wenjing away at once. Stepping back a few paces, she asked in surprise, Fu Wenjing, how are you here? The man before her looked somewhat haggard, far from the handsome, spirited figure he had been a year ago. The last time Shen Mingyue had seen him in such a disheveled state was in her previous life, after Mu Qingqing committed suicide. When Fu Wenjing came to her calling off the wedding, she began to wonder, could Mu Qingqing have died again in this life? That couldn't be right. In the previous life, Mu Qingqing committed suicide because she was driven to despair by Fu Wenjing's marriage to someone else. In this life, Mu Qingqing already has Fu Wenjing, so how could she possibly be willing to die? She examined Fu Wenjing again and saw that his face was soft, and his voice was full of longing. Mingyue, I've finally found you. I've been looking for you all these days, but your parents kept stopping me from seeing you. If it weren't for the strict secrecy kept by Shen Mingyue's parents, and if Shen Mingyue didn't live a secluded life, deeply absorbed in training, Fu Wenjing would have come knocking long ago. For an entire year, Fu Wenjing was separated from Shen Mingyue for the first time for so long, and he just couldn't get used to it. Shen Mingyue should have been by his side all along, preparing his 3 meals a day, chattering on about health tips with love in her eyes, and occasionally inviting him to sit with her in the rose garden, where they would share their thoughts and talk about recent amusing events in the previous life. Fu Wenjing hadn't thought such ordinary days were worth remembering, but in this life, with Shen Mingyue not by his side, he frequently dreamed of those trivial daily moments. Only then did he realize that Shen Mingyue had already become an inseparable part of his life. Shen Mingyue, however, did not share his feelings of nostalgia. Hearing his words, she didn't find it strange, given how Mr. and Mrs. Shen treated Fu Wenjing. It would be a miracle if they let him see her. She asked him directly, what do you want from me? As I recall, when I went abroad a year ago, I didn't bring anything with me, nor did I take anything of yours. I shouldn't owe you anything. Fu Wenjing's face suddenly darkened. That's not what I mean. What's mine is yours. Even if you did take something, I wouldn't mind. Do you think I'm that petty? I'm here to fulfill the agreement between us. Shen Mingyue was puzzled. What agreement? Fu Wenjing took her hand and replied, I promised you that we would really get married, with a real marriage certificate. I also owe you a wedding from my past life. Shen Mingyue froze. She searched her mind, which was full of dance moves, and recalled that right after she was reborn, Fu Wenjing had indeed mentioned compensating her, but hadn't she refused? Pulling her hand back, she politely declined. No need, what happened in the past life is in the past. I just want to focus on my dance career now. A career is the best preservative for a woman. When she immersed herself in dance, she almost forgot that inside, she was a soul weathered by rebirth. It felt good, and she didn't want to change it. With that made clear, there seemed no need to continue the conversation. Shen Mingyue turned to leave, but Fu Wenjing held her back. His low voice sounded, Mingyue, marry me, and you can still pursue your dance career, it doesn't conflict. Shen Mingyue frowned and was about to speak when a mocking voice came from behind. Isn't President Fu already married? How can you shamelessly pretend to be single and trick young women into going with you? Turning around, she saw Lin Yuze, followed by Shen's mother. Mother Shen quickly stepped forward to block Shen Mingyue, glaring angrily at Fu Wenjing. I've tried everything to keep you away, but you still found Mingyue. Are you made of sticky toffee? I told you, my Mingyue has nothing to do with you. Fu Wenjing paid no attention to Mother Shen's scolding or Lin Yuze's mockery. His eyes were fixed solely on Shen Mingyue as he explained, Mingyue, I'm not married. You know that the only woman I could ever marry in this life is you. He looked at her hopefully. But Shen Mingyue shook her head calmly. But I will never marry you in this lifetime. That was a decision she had made ever since she was reborn. After saying that, she took Mother Shen and Lin Yuze and left together. Behind them came Fu Wenjing's abrupt remark. Mingyue, your dance troupe is about to perform at the Palais Garnier, isn't it? But you won't be able to perform. Your most important investor is about to pull out. Only I can help you. At the same time, the phone in Shen Mingyue's pocket buzzed violently. It was a call from Lin Shui 13. Shen Mingyue took out her phone and answered the call. Lin Shui's tense, dry voice came through the receiver. Mingyue, I have bad news. Our dance troupe may have to suspend performances. If you don't want to wait, I can help recommend you to another troupe. Shen Mingyue interrupted before she could finish. I'm not leaving. Lin Shui fell silent for a moment, then spoke again, her voice breaking with tears. You're really not leaving? That's great. Mingyue, you don't know how many of my members have said they're leaving. Some have even found new places to go. Lin Shui had always been the cool, strong type, decisive and sparing with words, serious and strict in training, leading by example every day without ever showing any negative emotions. Now, showing this vulnerable side meant she must have been pushed to her limit. Shen Mingyue quickly comforted her. It's okay. Are you home now? I'll come to you, and we can talk over the details. Lin Shui agreed. I'm at one of the members' homes right now. I'll be back in the afternoon. We can talk then. After hanging up, Shen Mingyue turned to look at Fu Wenjing. He stood there, unhurried and unperturbed as he looked at her, as if certain that she would bow her head, admit defeat, and obediently return to his side. Mingyue, you know that entering the halls of art requires a qualification assessment. It's not something you can simply buy your way into with money, but I've invited a super-level dance master for you, and she has a spot available. Fu Wenjing gazed at her with deep affection as he spoke. Mingyue, come back to me. Whatever career you love, I will pave the way for you. The Fu Wenjing of her previous life had never spoken such sweet words. Shen Mingyue thought to herself, expressionless. Clearly, Mu Qingqing had taught him well, but hearing it now only made her feel sick. Thank you, but no. I made my own choice. If it's wrong, at worst I'll accept failure, but once I make a decision, I will never look back. With that, Shen Mingyue looked at her worried mother and Lin Yuze, then smiled. Let's go to the restaurant. Dad must be getting anxious. We can talk about things while we eat. Don't waste time on an outsider. She left first. Mother Shen and Lin Yuze silently followed along. As Mother Shen comfortingly held her daughter's hand, Fu Wenjing stood where he was, not chasing after them. Come to think of it, this seemed to be the first time Shen Mingyue had walked away from him, leaving only an indifferent back. In the previous life, Shen Mingyue had loved him, always silently staying behind him. Whenever he turned around, he would see her gentle, smiling face. Back then, it was he who always left her with his back, busy with company affairs, busy with social engagements, busy mourning Mu Qingqing's death. When did Shen Mingyue no longer wish to stand behind him? Since when did Shen Mingyue not even have a hint of a smile for him? An inexplicable emotion rose in Fu Wenjing's chest. As if everything had slipped out of his control. Shen Mingyue didn't seem to love him as much anymore. Had he really done something wrong? Meanwhile, Shen Mingyue had lunch with her parents. When her father learned about the difficulties her dance troupe was facing, he immediately pounded his chest and vowed to invest as much as she needed. It took Shen Mingyue considerable effort to calm her deep-pocketed father and assure him that she would ask for money if she truly needed it. Only then did she finally manage to excuse herself and rush to Lin Shui's home. Lin Yuze, using the excuse that it was on his way, personally drove her there, but as soon as they reached the door, they heard Lin Shui shouting angrily, "Who are you calling a slut? Say that again and I'll slap you senseless." Following the sound, they saw Lin Shui grabbing a woman by the collar, lifting her up with a furious glare. Shen Mingyue recognized her. It was Mu Qingqing, 14. The moment she recognized Mu Qingqing, Shen Mingyue murmured in surprise, "Why is she here?" Lin Yuza looked at her upon hearing this. "You know her?" Shen Mingyue nodded. "Mu Qingqing, the woman my ex-boyfriend is marrying." Lin Yuza immediately understood, a knowing, half-smile playing on his lips as he looked at Mu Qingqing. "So it's her. Fu Wenjing wants to get back together with you. But why is he bringing his baggage along?" Shen Mingyue laughed. "Exactly, Mu Qingqing is the beloved apple of Fu Wenjing's eye, the one he can't bear to part with, so he keeps her by his side at all times. Those two are a match made in heaven, and no one should come between them." As they spoke, the two had already reached Lin Shui's side. Without even looking up, Lin Shui delivered a sharp slap to Mu Qingqing's face. "No matter who you are, insulting my sister is asking for a slap." Mu Qingqing's cheek quickly reddened and swelled. Catching sight of Shen Mingyue from the corner of her eye, she immediately shot her a venomous glare. "Shen Mingyue, you had this woman hit me. Aren't you afraid Wen Jing will find out and completely despise you?" Shen Mingyue simply acted as if she hadn't heard and looked questioningly at Lin Shui. Lin Shui tossed Mu Qingqing aside, shook her reddened hand after delivering the slap, and explained, "I came to pick you up and ran into her trash-talking someone from our group, so I slapped her on the spot." Lin Shui was tall and slender, a full head taller than Mu Qingqing, and carried an imposing presence. Mu Qingqing couldn't last a single round against her. Holding her cheek, Mu Qingqing pointed at Shen Mingyue with resentment. "You are nothing but a slut, the slut who stole my husband." With that, she turned and ran off. Lin Shui raised her delicate eyebrows angrily and was about to chase after her to slap her again when Shen Mingyue timely held her back. "Don't go, she's unhinged. Be careful she doesn't frame you for assault." Mu Qingqing had died young in her previous life and had always been a weak, pitiful figure in this one. Shen Mingyue was genuinely afraid Lin Shui might beat her to the point of serious harm. Lin Shui, exasperated, said, "Aren't you angry? Let her try to frame me, we'll beat her first, then throw money at her afterward." Shen Mingyue shook her head. "Let's deal with that another time. Right now, we haven't even solved our own predicament. First, let's focus on getting a spot on the stage." Hearing this, Lin Shui lost the desire to pursue the matter. She took Shen Mingyue's hand and said, "Let's go back and talk. The sisters from the dance troupe who stayed behind are all with me. We'll figure something out together." Just then, Lin Yuza suddenly spoke up. "I won't disturb you any further. I have a friend who knows the head of the Paris Opera House, and I've arranged to have dinner with him." Shen Mingyue was astonished. "Haven't you been by my side the whole time? When did you contact your friends?" Lin Yuza had clearly been staying by her side. Whenever she looked up, she would almost always meet his gaze fixed on her. Rarely looking away, Lin Yuza winked at her with a smile. "So you've been paying attention to me all along." Who was really paying attention to whom? Shen Mingyue didn't call him out on it, instead changing the subject. "Yuza, if you help get Sister Shui and me out of this predicament, we'll treat you to a meal." Lin Yuza smiled and nodded. "Then wait for my good news." Shen Mingyue watched him walk away, then suddenly felt a weight on her shoulder. Lin Shui's arm was draped across her as she whispered, "So, what do you think of our Yuza? How about dating him?" Shen Mingyue saw that Lin Shui was still in the mood to joke, so she poked her forehead and said, "Nonsense, you still have the energy to tease me. You were crying on the phone just now. Are you okay now?" "I was only crying to trick you into staying. You're the pillar of our dance troupe. Shedding a few crocodile tears to make you unable to leave, that was totally worth it." As they spoke, the two had already arrived at Lin Shui's home. In the living room, a few members of the dance company were missing, and those who remained all looked worried. Lin Shui's expression also turned serious, and she clapped her hands to draw everyone's attention. "Everyone is here. You all know the specifics of the dance company's situation. The funding issue is secondary. The main problem is the performance qualification. Without anyone to vouch for our credentials, we can't even get onto larger performance stages. Our most urgent task now is to find someone willing to grant us performance spots, preferably a recommendation letter from a top ballet company or a renowned dance master in the ballet industry." Just then, Shen Mingyue's phone received a text message from Julia, whom she hadn't seen for a long time. "My dear, I'm back. I heard your dance company is in trouble. Do you need any help?" 15. Shen Mingyue was pleasantly surprised. Julia had left Paris a month ago due to family issues and hadn't contacted her for a long time. "My dear, I've spent the past month training and exchanging ideas with world-class dancers. They invited me to join their association, and I'm one of the organizers for this Paris performance." Julia sat in the cafe, her beautiful blonde hair shimmering in the sunlight. "I have recommendation slots for participating dance companies, but to join the performance, you'll still need to pass a test. We must ensure the quality of the stage, so you need to show us what you've got. Can you do it?" Shen Mingyue's eyes lit up. "Of course we can." She shared the good news with the dance troupe members, and everyone was thrilled. Lin Shui simply cancelled the holiday and gathered everyone for intensive training to prepare for the upcoming trial as the lead dancer. Shen Mingyue had the heaviest workload. The intense training lasted a week. Then one day, Lin Shui suddenly asked Shen Mingyue to come to the office. Shen Mingyue had no idea why, but when she walked into the office alone, she saw Fu Wenjing there. She paused mid-step, a wave of frustration rising in her heart. Fu Wenjing's eyes lit up when he saw her. He stepped forward and handed her the invitation. "Mingyue, you're here. I came to help you. This is the performance invitation. Just fill in your dance troupe's name, and you'll be all set to perform." Shen Mingyue took a step back, declining the invitation. She said politely but distantly, "No need, we're already vying for a spot." She refused, but Fu Wenjing grew anxious. "Buying doesn't guarantee success. Isn't it better to perform directly with my invitation?" "I swear, I've realized my mistakes. I won't pressure you with this." Shen Mingyue was genuinely surprised upon hearing this. She had thought Fu Wenjing was going to ask her to get back together with him again. Seeing her reaction, Fu Wenjing reached out to brush away the sweat from her forehead caused by training, his voice softening. "Mingyue, I've reflected over these days. I understand now why you've resisted me so much in this life." Shen Mingyue dodged his hand, then looked up and asked, "And why do you think that is?" Fu Wenjing answered, "Do you remember when we first met? You had just come off stage, accidentally bumped into me, twisted your ankle, and were so anxious you almost cried. I initially thought you were making a big deal out of nothing. Only later did I learn that you still had to perform and lead the dance afterwards." Shen Mingyue thought back and said, "Yes, that sounds about right." That sprained ankle made her miss an important performance, but it also brought Fu Wenjing into her life. Later, she fell in love with him. Since Fu Wenjing didn't enjoy watching stage performances, she gradually stopped dancing. Fu Wenjing's voice continued, "Mingyue, in your past life, you kept revolving around me, gave up dancing just to take care of my health. Now that you've been reborn, you must want to fulfill the regrets of that life. I will respect your choice. Once your regrets are satisfied, you'll come back to me." As he finished, Shen Mingyue suddenly smiled. She met Fu Wenjing's expectant gaze, nodded, and then shook her head. "What you said is very true, but the last part is wrong. After my regrets are fulfilled, I'll still be me." Fu Wenjing's heart sank as if sensing something and wanting to stop Shen Mingyue from continuing. He didn't know how to interrupt her. Shen Mingyue simply pressed on. "Fu Wenjing, I already made it clear to you on the first day of my rebirth. In this life, go make up for your regrets. Marry Mu Qingqing, have children, grow old with her. I'll step aside. Across these 2 lifetimes, we've never had a wedding, never had a real marriage certificate, and never had anything like love. I stopped wanting to be entangled with you long ago, and I don't want to be your Mrs. Fu either. We haven't been connected for a long time. Please stop coming to see me." When she finished speaking, she tore up the invitation that Fu Wenjing was still holding, threw it into the trash can, and turned to leave. Fu Wenjing did not follow her. Shen Mingyue said a quick goodbye to Lin Shui and returned to the dance studio, only to find several members of the dance troupe waiting for her there. "Shen Mingyue, I heard it's because of you that our dance troupe lost the performance slot." 16. Several people stormed over, confronting Shen Mingyue. "Don't bother lying, we overheard you talking to a man earlier. He gave you a performance invitation, but you refused it and insisted we take some exam instead. We'd already heard that your romantic entanglements cost our troupe the slot. What gives you the right to turn it down for us again? The troupe isn't yours alone, you lost us the performance slot, yet you expect all of us to suffer for your mistake, training every day, taking some exam that might not even work, just to fix what you broke. How can you be so shameless?" The practice room door was open, and they deliberately spoke loudly, so everyone in the lobby heard and turned to look. Lin Shui's face darkened. She rushed over, ready to curse them back. Shen Mingyue stopped her, her voice steady. "It's true that I just turned down an invitation to perform, before anyone could get upset," she added, "but I don't think we'll lose out. If our dance company passes the Juilliard teacher's assessment, our performance will become the only ballet on the main stage. We'll perform under the lights and cameras, facing a global audience. If we're stunning enough, our show could become a classic, collected as a Hall of Fame level performance. So compared to an invitation to perform on an ordinary stage, which would you choose? When Shin Mingyue finished, the entire hall fell silent. Even the few dance company members who had come to pick a fight went quiet, some even trembled with excitement. After a long moment, someone asked in a dry voice, "Shin, are you serious?" The opportunity was so unbelievable that the person asking was almost afraid to raise their voice. Shin Mingyue understood how they felt. She had already gone through her own bout of excitement in front of the Juilliard teacher. She nodded firmly. "It's true." The sound of heavy breathing rose and fell, and someone let out a cheer. "I want to train. I'll go train right now." The call was met with an enthusiastic response. In an instant, everyone had left, full of drive to go train. When the troupe members who had been looking for trouble rushed out of Shin Mingyue's dance studio, they sincerely apologized to her. "Shin, we misunderstood you. Being able to compete for a spot like this is worth throwing away 10 ordinary invitations." The dance troupe members' fighting spirit was ignited, and Shin Mingyue could finally train in peace. Everything was flourishing. The only downside was that Shin Mingyue's closed training was always interrupted every few days by Fu Wenjing. Somehow Fu Wenjing got wind of things, acting as if he had never heard her draw the line with him that day. He kept finding all sorts of excuses to see her, from throwing money at the dance troupe as an investor to always tracking down their training ground, standing outside the venue under the scorching sun on hot days, putting on the look of a devoted, regretless lover waiting to see her. The troupe members watched with envy, seizing every opportunity to call her over and tell her, "Sleeping with a quality man like that is no loss." Even Lin Shui felt a bit uneasy. So she quietly probed her. "Mingyue, didn't you say he was your ex? Could you still have feelings for him?" Shin Mingyue shook her head without hesitation. "He's a married man. We're not close." "What? He's married and still dares to harass you?" Lin Shui was shocked. Shin Mingyue smiled and covered her mouth, saying, "His wife is the woman you once fought with. Very difficult. Don't let him in anymore." Lin Shui nodded firmly. The tedious training soon passed, and the test before the performance was imminent. The day before that, Lin Shui gave everyone a day off. Shin Mingyue heard that her parents were coming to the training center for business negotiations, so she informed Lin Shui and left the venue. Just as she reached the entrance, she saw Fu Wenjing waiting there, tall and handsome in his suit, reaching out a hand to her. "Mingyue, where are you going? Let me give you a ride." 17. Shin Mingyue's good mood vanished instantly. Ignoring Fu Wenjing, she tried to walk around him, but he blocked her way again. "Mingyue, it's not safe for you to go alone. I can accompany you." Shin Mingyue looked up impatiently. "Fu Wenjing, I've already made it clear before, I don't want to see you." Fu Wenjing looked as if he hadn't slept well for a long time, with dark circles under his eyes and exhaustion in his gaze. Avoiding Shin Mingyue's eyes, he humbly pleaded, "Mingyue, we share a lifelong bond. How can you so easily cast it aside?" Seeing Shin Mingyue unmoved, a hint of resentment crept into his tone. "Didn't I tell you? The wedding between Qingqing and me was just a formality. She's fine from her illness now, and we've gone back to being just friends. What exactly are you holding against it?" Shin Mingyue suddenly lifted her gaze, a surge of anger she hadn't felt in over a year rising within her. "What am I holding against it? I'm holding against that you made me the laughingstock of my past life, and against your repulsive behavior of clinging to me while being in love with Mu Qingqing." At her words, Fu Wenjing froze, then urgently grabbed Shin Mingyue's hand. "You're the one I love." "Mingyue." Shin Mingyue, impatient with listening, interrupted him. "You don't like me. You're just used to me being around, helping you manage everything and making your life comfortable. But I'm not your nanny. If you have feelings to spare, spend them on Mu Qingqing. You said that after death. You wanted to be with her in your past life. Well, you died and came back because of that past life, so go be with her now and leave me alone." With that, she turned to leave. Fu Wenjing tried to stop her again, but then saw a handsome man approaching from nearby. He recognized him. This was Lin Yuze, who had often been by Shin Mingyue's side lately. Right in front of him, Lin Yuze reached out his hand to Shin Mingyue and said gently, "Mingyue, I'm here to pick you up." A handsome, gentle man smiled at you. Shin Mingyue's mood lifted instantly. Smiling, she placed her hand in Lin Yuze's and was about to speak. Then Fu Wenjing's grim voice sounded from behind. "Mingyue, are you rejecting me because you like this man?" The more dazzling Shin Mingyue's smile was, the darker Fu Wenjing's expression became. He stared at her intently, a long dormant sense of jealousy rising in his heart. Before Shin Mingyue could answer, Lin Yuze stepped forward and said in a matter-of-fact tone, since you already know that, Mr. Fu, stop coming around Mingyue every day, trying to break up someone else's relationship. As he spoke, Lin Yuze tightened his grip on Shen Mingyue's hand, not letting go politely after a brief hold as he used to. Shen Mingyue's heart stirred, catching his hint. She did not object. Seeing this, Fu Wenjing's face darkened even more. He looked at her coldly. Shen Mingyue, Lin Yuze shielded Shen Mingyue. Please stop throwing a tantrum here. You're seriously getting in the way of our lovey-dovey couple time. Fu Wenjing shot him a chilly glance, then turned to Shen Mingyue. What can a useless painter like him ever give you? Lin Yuze smiled. I know how to appreciate the beauty of the bright moon. I heard that when you were with her, you never watched a single one of her performances. How dare you claim to like Mingyue? Fu Wenjing, like a primary school student who had to win the argument, blurted out. What do you know? Mingyue willingly gave up performing for me. She loves me. Seeing that they were about to start arguing, Shen Mingyue suddenly interrupted. Stop fighting, Fu Wenjing, who I'm with is none of your business. Then she grabbed Lin Yuze's arm and said, let's go. Lin Yuze glanced at Fu Wenjing, who was fuming with his lips pressed together, and gave a radiant smile. Okay. As Shen Mingyue turned to leave, she could feel Fu Wenjing's gaze piercing into her back. She had a meal with her parents, Mr. and Mrs. Shen, whom she hadn't seen for a long time, checked to make sure they were following her health regimen, and dawdled until evening before returning to the training ground. The sun was setting, and in the distance she saw Fu Wenjing still standing where he was, as if he had been staring all along in the direction she had left. His figure looked particularly desolate. Shen Mingyue remained unmoved, pretending not to see him, and was about to enter the door when her wrist was grabbed. She looked up. Mu Qingqing had arrived at some unknown time, gripping her hand with such force that her nails dug into Shen Mingyue's flesh. Yet Mu Qingqing's voice carried a pitiful tone. Mingyue Jia, please don't treat brother Wenjing like this. It breaks my heart to see. 18 Shen Mingyue, feeling the pain, forcefully shook off Mu Qingqing. Mu Qingqing immediately acted as if she had been shoved hard. Falling heavily to the ground, she promptly burst into tears and looked pitifully toward Fu Wenjing. Brother Wenjing, it hurts so much. Before Mu Qingqing could start crying, Fu Wenjing had already stepped forward and helped her up. Shen Mingyue watched coldly. Mu Qingqing was up to her old tricks again, trying to use her to win Fu Wenjing's sympathy and turn him against Shen Mingyue. Shen Mingyue was already tired of it, not interested in playing the glue for their relationship. She was about to step away, but then Fu Wenjing looked at her and asked with concern, did Qingqing hurt your hand? Let me take you to get it treated. Shen Mingyue was stunned. Fu Wenjing then turned to Mu Qingqing with a disapproving look, slightly scolding her. Qingqing, next time don't be so reckless. If you accidentally hurt Mingyue, she still has to lead the dance tomorrow. Mu Qingqing hadn't expected to be scolded by Fu Wenjing either, and deep jealousy flashed in her eyes. Then, with a calculating glint in her eyes, she pulled back from Fu Wenjing's embrace, put on a show of concern, and stepped forward to check Shen Mingyue's injured hand. I'm sorry, Sister Mingyue, I was wrong, please forgive me. Her mouth spoke of forgiveness, but in secret, she was preparing to strike and worsen Shen Mingyue's injury, making it impossible for her to dance. Shen Mingyue sneered at this and slapped her backhanded. You deliberately hurt me. Why should I forgive you? With a smack, Mu Qingqing's cheek quickly swelled up. Mu Qingqing stood there in utter disbelief. Shen Mingyue, completely unapologetic, shook her stinging hand and turned her gaze to Fu Wenjing. Control your wife. Fu Wenjing, who had furrowed his brows and was about to say something, immediately retorted upon hearing Shen Mingyue's words. Mingyue, Qingqing is not my wife. She and I have always been just friends. What kind of friends insist on holding a wedding, and have one pining for the other for half a lifetime after death? Shen Mingyue sneered mockingly. Your wedding was broadcast live across the capital. You can't go back on your word now, can you? Even if you don't want to be married to her, Mu Qingqing certainly does. With that, Shen Mingyue walked straight into the training ground before anyone could stop her. Regardless of what Fu Wenjing said, the wedding had taken place and he had married her. Mu Qingqing was his wife. Shen Mingyue had no desire to compete with someone like Mu Qingqing over him. Fu Wenjing might be a treasure in Mu Qingqing's eyes, but in Shen Mingyue's eyes, he meant nothing at all anymore. In Shen Mingyue's dance troupe, she rinsed the scratches Mu Qingqing had left on her with clean water. She had pulled away in time, so only a faint red mark remained, one that would disappear by the next day. After applying medicine, the troupe's trial arrived as scheduled. Shen Mingyue and the other members had all adjusted to their best condition and delivered a near-perfect stage performance. During the curtain call, Julia and the several dancers she had brought applauded warmly. Shin Mingyue's heart was finally at ease. Backstage in the dressing room, Julia walked in with a big smile, hugged each of the dance troupe's girls in turn, and finally held Shin Mingyue tightly in her arms. "You've successfully secured the spot." Julia stroked Shin Mingyue's hair and said to everyone with a smile, "My darlings, you were all wonderful. My friends and I are really looking forward to seeing you on stage, amazing the world." Cheers erupted in the room. Shin Mingyue smiled back and returned Julia's hug. "Thank you, trust us, we won't let you down." Julia nodded with a smile. Thanks to this milestone victory, Lin Shui was also delighted and treated the entire dance troupe to a diet-friendly meal. Everyone happily ate together, laughing and joking throughout. Shin Mingyue, avoiding the crowd, video called her parents to share the good news with them right away. Her parents were overjoyed. Her father slapped the table and said he would invite all their old friends to cheer for Shin Mingyue when the performance started, until her mother gave him a pinch, leaving him to sulk in silence. Shin Mingyue couldn't help but laugh. After hanging up, she messaged Lin Yuze, saying she wanted to treat him to a meal. Lin Yuze, who usually replied instantly, didn't respond this time. Frowning, Shin Mingyue assumed he was momentarily occupied, so she put away her phone and returned to the hall to continue chatting with Lin Shui. But after quite a while, there was still no word from Lin Yuze. Feeling a bit uneasy, Shin Mingyue excused herself to Lin Shui and hurried off to Lin Yuze's studio. Just as she arrived downstairs, she saw Lin Yuze's car, nearly crushed out of shape, with Lin Yuze lying unconscious in the driver's seat, his life hanging in the balance. 19. Shin Mingyue was horrified. She immediately called for an ambulance and tried every means to rescue Lin Yuze from the wrecked car. It was not until the ambulance arrived and rushed Lin Yuze to the emergency room that Shin Mingyue realized how breathless she was. She took several deep breaths to force herself to calm down, then called Lin Yuze's relatives. Lin Shui was the first to arrive. "Mingyue, how is Yuze?" Shin Mingyue gestured for her to sit down first. "He's in the emergency room. The doctor said the situation is relatively optimistic." Lin Shui breathed a sigh of relief and muttered under her breath, "I knew that guy wouldn't die so easily without having won his girl over yet." Shin Mingyue didn't catch what she said and asked in confusion, "Sister Shui, what are you talking about?" "Nothing." Seeing that Shin Mingyue looked unwell, as though worn out, Lin Shui spoke up, "I've got things covered here. You already worked hard performing today. And on top of that, you saved Yuze. You must be exhausted. Go back and rest. I'll let you know right away if anything comes up." Shin Mingyue hesitated. "Maybe I'll just wait here." Lin Shui frowned in disagreement, then promptly pulled her up and nudged her toward the hospital exit. "Go on. If you collapse from exhaustion, Yuze and I will be the ones worrying about you. Besides, didn't you promise Uncle Shin you'd go home? You can always come back tomorrow." Shin Mingyue, having been ushered out of the hospital, could only say helplessly, "All right, I'll go home first." Shin Mingyue was indeed a bit tired, her fingers barely able to lift, and her head felt groggy. She took a taxi home, but from a distance, she saw someone waiting outside the villa. Shin Mingyue got out of the car skeptically and walked closer, only then realizing it was Fu Wenjing. He was standing at the gate with several bodyguards, the buzzing of drones audible in her ears. Seeing her, Fu Wenjing's eyes lit up. He strode forward, his voice gentle and joyful. "Mingyue, congratulations on getting the performance spot. This is a celebration gift I picked out for you." A small exquisite box was pressed into Shin Mingyue's hands, containing a blue diamond necklace. Before she could speak, specks of starlight lit up in the air. Countless drones formed a heart shape in the sky, with a line of text in the middle congratulating her on the progress of her dance career. Her groggy mind was jolted awake, but her temples began to throb again. She threw the necklace back at Fu Wenjing and said coldly, "Excuse me, I have things to do." Now, all she wanted was to get back to her room and have a good rest. She had no desire at all to see Fu Wenjing's confession or his celebration. Her coldness made Fu Wenjing's heart sink. "Mingyue, don't you like it? You used to say that the greatest romance for you was me being there for every important moment, and that you only cared about the thought I put in for you, the feelings I have for you. Why don't you like it now?" Shin Mingyue said expressionlessly. "You also said that was before." Did he have to keep reminding her how many foolish things she had done in the past life just to get Fu Wenjing to show a little more love for her? In her past life, she thought Fu Wenjing loved her, but in this life, she isn't that foolish anymore. With those words, Shin Mingyue wanted to leave, but Fu Wenjing couldn't help gripping her shoulder and said urgently, "Mingyue, can't we just have a calm talk? Don't keep pushing me away. I just want to be good to you." His agitated shaking made Shen Mingyue's head feel dizzy and heavy again. No, she tried to raise her hand to break free from him, but felt utterly weak. Mingyue. In the last moment before she closed her eyes and drifted into unconsciousness, the only thing Shen Mingyue saw was Fu Wenjing's terrified and anxious face. 20. She remained unconscious for an unknown stretch of time when she woke again. Shen Mingyue found herself lying in a hospital bed. Mingyue, how are you feeling? The doctor said your fever has broken. You passed out from exhaustion and a chill over the past couple of days. Fu Wenjing had kept watch by her bedside, staying there all night. The moment she woke up, he immediately helped her sit up and poured her a glass of warm water. After waking, Shen Mingyue's earlier drowsiness and headache had faded significantly, and her mind felt clear. She brushed aside Fu Wenjing's hand. I'm fine, thank you for bringing me to the hospital. As she spoke, she instinctively looked for her phone, checking if Lin Shui had sent her any messages. Lin Shui had indeed sent her a message in the middle of the night, saying that Lin Yujie had been taken out of the emergency room, had regained consciousness, and was out of danger. Shen Mingyue was overjoyed and was about to get out of bed when Fu Wenjing stopped her. Fu Wenjing stared at her bright phone screen with a grim expression and demanded, "Who are you going to see, Lin Yujie?" It seemed that Fu Wenjing had seen the message Lin Shui sent last night. Shen Mingyue didn't want to get tangled up with him. That's none of your business. Fu Wenjing pressed his thin lips together, looking very angry. Mingyue, how much longer are you going to keep sulking? Don't keep using other men to provoke me. We've been married for so many years. How can we bicker like a young couple? Shen Mingyue was even angrier than he was. She stared at him and enunciated every word. I've never bickered with you. And this isn't some kind of playing hard to get. Fu Wenjing, why won't you just admit that I stopped liking you a long time ago? Fu Wenjing fell silent. He dared not look at her again, and a trace of bitterness surfaced on his face. Shen Mingyue caught the hidden bitterness and pain in his eyes. She instantly understood. So it's not that you didn't know. You've just been deceiving yourself. Over the past few days, Fu Wenjing had long noticed her cold and heartless attitude toward him. The reason he still acted as if nothing was wrong was purely out of pretense. Fu Wenjing lowered his head deeply, revealing vulnerability and embarrassment before her for the first time. Mingyue, can we go back? I already know that I didn't cherish you in my past life. I was wrong. Can we start over in this life? Let me love you properly. At this moment, he was neither the Fu Wenjing who had become the wealthiest man in his past life, living with dignity and honor, nor the man reborn with high spirits, believing everything was under his control. He was just a humble man seeking forgiveness from the one he loved. Shen Mingyue did not answer and slowly walked out of the hospital room. Fu Wenjing, your love means nothing to me anymore. With that, she left without looking back. She did not turn around, nor did she care whether Fu Wenjing followed her. Instead, she went straight upstairs to find Lin Yujie's room, just as Lin Shui had told her. Pushing the door open, she saw Lin Yujie awake, lying in bed with a pale face but in good spirits. His eyes lit up at the sight of her, though a hint of worry flickered across them. Mingyue, have you rested well? You don't look so good. Shen Mingyue shook her head. I just haven't slept well the past couple of days, but I'm fine now. You should focus on getting better yourself. Lin Yuzhe obediently nodded, his gaze fixed on Shen Mingyue with a hint of unspoken meaning. Shen Mingyue's heart skipped a beat. The next moment, Lin Yuzhe spoke. Mingyue, when I was on the verge of death, there was one thing I deeply regretted. I regretted never confessing my feelings to you, never letting you know what's in my heart, never leaving a trace in your soul. I felt I couldn't rest in peace even in death. Shen Mingyue felt a stir in her heart. She knew what he was about to say, yet she listened quietly without interrupting him. Lin Yuzhe took a deep breath and was about to speak again. Knock, knock, knock. Suddenly, a knock came from outside the door, breaking the pleasant atmosphere. Turning his head, he saw Fu Wenjing standing by the door with a dark expression, his glare seemingly about to pierce holes into Shen Mingyue. 21. Fu Wenjing must have heard everything, his face so dark it could drip water. Ignoring his jealous, adulterer-catching expression, Shen Mingyue asked calmly, what do you want? Fu Wenjing stared at her intensely, then suddenly strode forward and pulled her out of the hospital room. Mingyue, come with me, I need to talk to you alone. Before leading her away, he cast a cold, menacing glance at Lin Yuzhe. If looks could kill, Lin Yuzhe would have died 10,000 times over. Shen Mingyue was yanked forward, stumbling, and struggled hard before finally shaking off Fu Wenjing's grip in the corridor. What exactly are you trying to do? Shen Mingyue's face turned cold, only to see Fu Wenjing suddenly go down on one knee and pull out a ring box from his jacket. Mingyue, I picked out this diamond ring for you, eh? Year ago, and I've even prepared a grand wedding for us. If you hadn't suddenly gone abroad back then, we would have been together long ago. Now I'm proposing to you. Will you marry me? Fu Wenjing had originally wanted a romantic proposal, but Lin Yuze gave him a strong sense of crisis. He couldn't overthink it anymore, and impulsively went straight to the proposal. Shen Mingyue looked at his expectant face and was about to speak when she heard a sharp voice from the side. Wenjing Gij, what are you doing? Mu Qingqing actually showed up. Shen Mingyue fell silent. She watched coldly as Mu Qingqing burst into tears within a second, threw herself at Fu Wenjing's side, and sobbed, Wenjing, we've had a wedding, everyone in our circle knows we're a couple, are you going to abandon me? As Mu Qingqing cried, she began clutching her chest, trying to fake an illness, but this time, Fu Wenjing showed none of his former tenderness. His face darkened. Qingqing, why are you being so unreasonable? I told you, our wedding was just a formality. Mu Qingqing's crying stopped abruptly. Fu Wenjing immediately turned to Shen Mingyue and said urgently, Mingyue, don't be angry. I'll announce that the wedding with Qingqing was fake. You are the one who will be my real wife. Before he could finish, Mu Qingqing couldn't bear it any longer. She shot a venomous glare at Shen Mingyue and ran out crying. Seeing that Fu Wenjing didn't anxiously chase after her, Shen Mingyue asked, aren't you worried about her? She loves you so much. She might have another episode and try to kill herself. Fu Wenjing shook his head. No, I've already had someone watch over Qingqing to make sure she doesn't try to kill herself again. Don't worry, no one can stop us from being together. As he spoke, he crouched down again and held the ring out to Shen Mingyue. Shen Mingyue took the ring, and under Fu Wenjing's expectant gaze, threw it out the window without even looking at it. That's my answer. If Fu Wenjing insisted on pestering her again and again, she didn't mind shattering his hopes every single time. Mingyue, Fu Wenjing's expression changed drastically. His heart ached as if it were breaking into pieces. His mind went blank, and he almost instinctively rushed downstairs to retrieve the ring, as if doing so could somehow salvage the once passionate feelings they had for each other. Shen Mingyue watched him leave, then turned to go back to Lin Yu's hospital room, only to run into Lin Shui, who was rushing over. Mingyue, are you okay? Lin Shui grabbed her and looked her over. Shen Mingyue, confused, replied, I'm fine, glad you're okay. Yuza called and asked me to come, worried that Mr. Fu might have bullied you, Lin Shui explained, and the two of them returned to Lin Yu's hospital room together. Shen Mingyue looked up, met Lin Yu's gaze, and gave a faint smile. Don't worry, I'm fine. Lin Yu's eyes held a trace of frustration as he hesitated. What I said earlier. Shen Mingyue interrupted, focus on recovering first, we'll talk about everything else once you're better. Lin Yu's eyes dimmed for a moment, and he slumped in defeat, nodding, alright. With the mood broken, Lin Yuze had no choice but to back down and wait for another opportunity. Shen Mingyue and Lin Shui stayed a while longer, but were soon called back to training by the dance troupe members, and they left the hospital together. Lin Shui went to get the car while Shen Mingyue waited for her by the roadside, but before long, a loud crash rang out. Shen Mingyue looked up and saw a sheet of iron plummeting from the hospital rooftop, behind which was Mu Qingqing's malicious, triumphant face. She had no time to dodge and was about to be crushed by the heavy iron slab when she was suddenly shoved hard. It was Fu Wenjing who lunged at her and pushed her out of harm's way the moment the iron plate crashed down. Shen Mingyue saw that Fu Wenjing's hand was still tightly clutching the diamond ring she had just dropped. 22. Shen Mingyue was stunned for a moment, then immediately called for a doctor. Fu Wenjing was rushed to emergency resuscitation, and his condition was very grim. Lin Shui got the news, stopped her car urgently, and pulled her aside to ask, what happened? How did you get hit by the iron plate? Shen Mingyue held Lin Shui's hand and quietly told her what had happened. I wonder if the hospital rooftop has surveillance cameras, and whether that would be enough for a conviction. Lin Shui's expression turned extremely grim. That bitch again, hasn't she hurt you enough? This hospital offers top-tier service. The rooftop houses the convalescent wards. For patient safety, they install monitoring devices. I'll go ask the hospital administration for the footage. With those words, Lin Shui turned and walked out. Shen Mingyue couldn't stop her, so she could only watch Lin Shui charge off to find the hospital director. Fu Wenjing's emergency resuscitation lasted another 2 hours. When he was wheeled out of the operating room, he was still unconscious. The patient requires constant care. If at all possible, please stay and look after him. The doctor clearly assumed Shen Mingyue was a relative of Fu Wenjing. She pulled Shen aside and gave her a long list of instructions, then hurried off before waiting for a reply. So Shen Mingyue stayed outside the hospital room. Tap tap, footsteps approached. Shen Mingyue turned her head and saw Mu Qingqing's face. which was filled with both malice and barely concealed panic. But with a quick roll of her eyes, Mu Qingqing soon regained her composure. Pointing at Shen Mingyue with arrogant disdain, she said, "Brother Wenjing is my husband, I'll take care of him, you get lost now." Shen Mingyue knew that Mu Qingqing only dared to throw her weight around because she believed Shen Mingyue had no evidence. Still, she did not argue with Mu Qingqing. "Mu Qingqing, if you dare to commit intentional murder, you must be prepared to face the consequences." The evidence, she would get it. "What nonsense are you talking?" Mu Qingqing's expression changed. Fierce but inwardly weak, Shen Mingyue had already turned and left. She went straight to call the police, then went to find Lin Shui, learning that obtaining the surveillance footage required a very complicated application process. She didn't rush. While the lawyer followed up on the case, she returned to the dance troupe for training. A week later, Fu Wenjing woke up and insisted on seeing her. Shen Mingyue rushed to the hospital room and saw at a glance that Fu Wenjing, lying in bed with a pale face, was wrapped all over in white bandages. "Mingyue, what have you been busy with?" Fu Wenjing's gaze was dim, and his voice was very weak. Shen Mingyue felt dazed for a moment, remembering many things from her past life. There were scenes of Fu Wenjing falling ill from frequent overtime work, and her staying by his bedside in the hospital all night to care for him, and also the moment when she, old, frail, and attached to an oxygen tank, heard Fu Wenjing say that he wanted to have a ghost marriage with Mu Qingqing after death. Over the past year or so, she had rarely recalled her previous life. The love and hate from that time seemed to have drifted far away from her. Looking at Fu Wenjing, she replied calmly, "I've been busy training. Thank you for saving me before. That iron plate was deliberately thrown to kill me. I will find the culprit and make sure your injury isn't for nothing." With that, Shen Mingyue felt she had nothing more to say, so she stood up to leave. "Don't go." Fu Wenjing, summoning strength from somewhere, scrambled up and lunged toward her, grabbing her hand as he tremblingly held up a ring. "Mingyue, do you still doubt that I love you? Let's stop hurting each other. Can we start over?" He tried to slip the ring onto Shen Mingyue's finger, but she pulled away. Fu Wenjing grew anxious. "Mingyue, even if it's for the sake of me saving you." Before he could finish, a scoff cut him off. "President Fu, it wasn't Mingyue who harmed you, so why are you deliberately cashing in on a favor?" Fu Wenjing's face darkened. He turned his head and, sure enough, saw Lin Yuze sitting in a wheelchair at the hospital room door, arms crossed, watching him with a mocking look. Lin Yuze sneered at Fu Wenjing, then shifted his gaze to Shen Mingyue and winked at her. "Mingyue, I need to talk to you about something. Come with me." "Okay." Shen Mingyue naturally nodded, broke free from Fu Wenjing, and started to leave. Fu Wenjing's eyes nearly split with rage. Right in front of him, Shen Mingyue acted far too intimately toward Lin Yuze, without even a hint of pretense. Seeing Shen Mingyue walk away without looking back, he could no longer contain himself and shouted, "Shen Mingyue, have you forgotten you're reborn? In this life, you're decades older than Lin Yuze. Do you still want to date him?" 23. Shen Mingyue paused mid-step. Fu Wenjing had already thrown caution to the wind, brazenly revealing the fact that the two of them had been reborn. "Mingyue, we were married for decades in our past life, growing old together. We've long grown used to each other's presence. Getting back together is the only right choice. Does Lin Yuze know everything you went through in your past life? If he knows you're a reborn soul, will he still love you? Mingyue, wake up. Lin Yuze isn't right for you." Shen Mingyue listened quietly until he finished, her composure unshaken. She shot back, "If you thought age was an issue, why didn't you say so a year ago when you married Mu Qingqing? Was he allowed to be reborn, marry Mu Qingqing in a blaze of glory, and fulfill his dream, while she couldn't pursue her own happiness? Let me say this one more time, we were never married in our past life. I cut ties with you long ago. Stay out of my business." With that, she left the hospital room, pushing Lin Yuze's wheelchair away. She didn't look back, no matter how Fu Wenjing called out from behind. The wheelchair rolled over the clean corridor tiles, and the air fell silent. Shen Mingyue thought it over. Since the secret was already out, hiding it any longer would be pointless. It was better to be open. Lin Yuze was her friend. He probably wouldn't look at her strangely. Just as she was pondering how to bring it up, she heard Lin Yuze softly say her name, "Mingyue." Shen Mingyue followed the voice and met Lin Yuze's eyes, which held no trace of awkwardness. "Mingyue, are you unhappy? If you don't want to talk about it, I can pretend I didn't hear what was said just now." Shen Mingyue was taken aback, then instinctively shook her head. "No need. I don't think there's anything shameful about this. Even at an older age, you can still make friends and pursue your dreams. Besides, she isn't actually that old now." Her heart, which felt world-weary right after being reborn, has grown lively again. She can laugh, get angry, feel nervous or anxious, she is still herself. Lin Yuze smiled, looking up at her with a familiar adoration in his eyes. Then, Mingyue, would you come with me to my studio? There are some secrets I want to tell you, and a major life decision I'd like your consent on. Shen Mingyue's heart skipped a beat just as she was about to reply. The phone in her pocket buzzed. It was Lin Shui calling to urge her back to training. The performance at the Paris Opera House was coming up soon, and Shen Mingyue's schedule was extremely tight lately. She had made time today only because Fu Wenjing had insisted on seeing her so desperately. Otherwise, she would still be in closed training right now. Shen Mingyue could only apologize to Lin Yuze. I can't accept your invitation until after the performance. Lin Yuze was not anxious. His failed confession last time had taught him a lesson. He had to ensure that Shen Mingyue would not be disturbed by anyone or anything, or else he suspected he would fail again. He then nodded. So Mingyue, you're saying yes, you'll come to my studio after the performance. I'll arrange a time and wait for you to be free. Watching him assume things and seemingly decide on a time to meet her, Shen Mingyue didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Fine, I will definitely come. After settling that, Shen Mingyue walked Lin Yuze back to his hospital room, then hurriedly returned to the training ground. Time flew by in the midst of relentless practice. On the day of the performance, the venue was packed. Shen Mingyue and the dance troupe members encouraged each other, adjusted to their best form, and took the stage with high spirits. In the silent hall, only the music and the elegant, beautiful dance on stage remained. When the music stopped, the hall fell silent, followed by enthusiastic applause. Shen Mingyue couldn't help but smile. Our performance was a great success. The dance troupe members also broke into smiles, radiant and bright. After the performance, Shen Mingyue returned backstage, where she was greeted by media reporters whose faces still bore traces of awe and admiration. They rushed forward, eager to be the first to interview her, but someone else was faster than them. 2 bouquets of flowers, one on the left and one on the right, were handed to her. On the left, Fu Wenjing in a black suit spoke affectionately. Mingyue, you look beautiful today. On the right, Lin Yuze gave her a faint smile. Mingyue, today's performance was excellent. 24. Shen Mingyue hadn't expected Fu Wenjing to come, and looked at him in surprise. Fu Wenjing's eyes showed nervousness. Mingyue, what I said before about our past life, I was so desperate to keep you that I spoke without thinking. Please forgive me. His voice was very low, audible only to Shen Mingyue and Lin Yuze, who were close by. Shen Mingyue's eyes flickered. She reached out, took his flowers, and handed them to the dance troupe members behind her. Then, under Fu Wenjing's livid gaze, she accepted Lin Yuze's bouquet, held it in her arms, and gave a slight bow. Thank you for your appreciation. With that, she straightened up, brushed past the 2 men, and walked toward the lights and accolades. It was a minor episode. No one paid them any attention. Everyone gathered around Shen Mingyue and the dance troupe members. After this successful performance, she and her troupe caught the eye of the artists, and invitations began pouring in. Lin Shui was overjoyed. She treated everyone to a big meal and then gave them a long holiday. The next performance is 2 months away. Until then, you have plenty of time to take care of your personal matters. I won't be in touch during this period, so I hope you all enjoy your freedom. As Lin Shui spoke, she shot a glance at Shen Mingyue, especially you, Mingyue. Someone told me you've accepted an invitation and need plenty of time to keep that date. When you come back, will you be treating us to wedding wine? After Lin Shui's teasing, everyone laughed good-naturedly. Shen Mingyue gave Lin Shui a mock glare. Shui Jia, you know too much. Unfazed, Lin Shui put an arm around Shen Mingyue's shoulder and laughed heartily. Alright, I'll stop. Let me take you back so you can talk to Yuze. The 2 walked out the door, but instead of Lin Yuze, they ran into Fu Wenjing and Mu Qingqing. As soon as she saw Shen Mingyue, Mu Qingqing immediately clutched Fu Wenjing's arm like a protective diner guarding its food. Only then did she pretend to be happy. Mingyue Jia, congratulations on a successful performance. Brother Wenjing has been waiting for you all this time. Why don't you make up with him? Wouldn't it be nice for the 3 of us to live together happily? Shen Mingyue and Lin Shui both turned cold, stopping Lin Shui from rushing over to hit someone. Shen Mingyue looked at Mu Qingqing, raised an eyebrow, and sneered. Mu Qingqing, the police have already found evidence that you deliberately threw the iron plate to harm me. You won't be living the good life much longer. Mu Qingqing's expression changed. You're lying. She unconsciously let go of Fu Wenjing's arm, dared not look at the man's questioning gaze, and stepped back a few paces toward the edge of the stairs. Shen Mingyue pointed behind her. the police are here. Ah, don't arrest me. Mu Qingqing, terrified, fled in a panic without looking where she was going. Running at top speed, Lin Shui saw this and immediately chased after her. Shen Mingyue was a step too slow and failed to catch her. Fu Wenjing frowned at the scene, then turned to Shen Mingyue. Mingyue, what about Qingqing? Shen Mingyue nodded. The person who nearly crushed you with an iron plate was Mu Qingqing. She actually wanted to harm me. She's probably not content with just being your wife in name, and fears I might want to get back together with you. Fu Wenjing's expression turned extremely grim. He explained, somewhat flustered, Mingyue, I had no idea Qingqing would treat you like this. How about I drive her away? Before he could finish, Shen Mingyue cut him off. What you want to do is none of my business. We're not close. But Mingyue, Shen Mingyue didn't want to hear any more, and pressed on. I already have someone I love. Fu Wenjing, I have a new life now. While you're still stuck in the past, we are not married, nor did we share much affection in a past life. All we have is this life's awkward, painful shared experience, and I don't want to keep entangled with you. Shen Mingyue had been clear-headed and focused on her goal from start to finish, just as Fu Wenjing tried to cover his ears, unwilling to listen any further. She delivered her closing statement. This is our last meeting. My parents have hired bodyguards for me, and I will tell them I don't want to see you. Let this be the end between us. With that, she walked past Fu Wenjing and descended the steps one by one. She did not see that behind her, Fu Wenjing had slumped against the wall, his heartache leaving him dazed and blankly staring at Shen Mingyue's retreating figure. Mingyue, if I had realized sooner that I cannot live without you, would the ending have been different? He tried to move forward again, chasing after Shen Mingyue's figure, but after just a few steps, he slipped and fell down a flight of 50 steps. 25 As Shen Mingyue walked down the steps, Lin Yuze was waiting for her. He held up his phone to her. Sister Shui said Mu Qingqing has been caught. She watched the police put her in the patrol car, and she wants us to head to the police station right away. Shen Mingyue breathed a sigh of relief. Sister Shui is too impulsive. She went after her all by herself. Wasn't she afraid Mu Qingqing might hurt her? They arrived at the police station together and saw Mu Qingqing handcuffed and still shouting hysterically, Ma'am, rest assured, your charges and lawsuit have been accepted by the court. Since this is a cross-border case, it may take some time to reach a conviction, but please be assured, those who commit intentional homicide will face strict legal sanctions. The police said sternly that Shen Mingyue had no objection. She emigrated abroad, but Mu Qingqing did not. This transnational case would take a considerable amount of time. As long as Mu Qingqing finally got what she deserved, she would be at ease. After leaving the police station, Shen Mingyue looked at Lin Yuze. Shall I accompany you to the hospital for a follow-up first? Lin Yuze nodded. His injuries from the car accident had just healed. His recovery was going very well, and the follow-up examination went smoothly. The two remained silent throughout the follow-up and were just about to leave the hospital. Then they heard doctors and nurses rushing past them, shouting loudly, Hurry, get more doctors. This man fell down the stairs and fractured his skull. He needs emergency treatment. This gentleman also has an old wound, caused by a steel plate hitting him some time ago. It's too dangerous. Prepare the instruments and the operating room immediately. How can someone be so unlucky, facing death twice in 2 months? Does God want him dead? Enough talk. Hurry and call several more authoritative doctors. I heard the patient's heart stopped several times, hit by a steel plate. Shen Mingyue immediately knew who they were trying to resuscitate. Could Fu Wenjing have fallen down the steps after she left? Lin Yuze glanced at her, stopped walking, and asked, Do you want to go see? Shen Mingyue thought for a moment, then shook her head. It has nothing to do with me. Whether Fu Wenjing lived or died had long ceased to concern her, an outsider. The corners of Lin Yuze's mouth curled up slightly. He glanced at the emergency room in the distance and then walked forward. Then let's go to my studio. He naturally took her hand, his warmth passing to her. Shen Mingyue paused briefly but did not pull away. Lin Yuze's studio. The sunlight here was just right, falling upon her in bright patches. Mingyue, welcome to my secret studio. Shen Mingyue followed the voice and met Lin Yuze's gaze. Still full of affection, her heart stirred. From the very first time they met, Lin Yuze had never hidden his feelings. He stood silently by her side, doing countless things just to make her happy. When she was with him, she often forgot her identity and age, being her truest self, relaxed and at ease. She was deeply attached to this feeling and didn't want to lose it. A surge of impulse rose in her heart, urging her to say something, but she couldn't outpace Lin Yuze. Standing in the sunlight, he looked at her earnestly and asked, Mingyue, I like you. Would you be willing to be with me for a lifetime? Shin Mingyue was stunned even though she had anticipated what Lin Yuze might say. Hearing him confess without hesitation still left her dazed. She couldn't help but ask, Yuze, you already know that I've lived an entire extra lifetime. Inside, I'm already an aging soul. Won't you find it strange to be with me? Lin Yuze laughed. He took her hand and pressed it against his chest, letting her feel his rapid heartbeat. You, aging. All I see is that from start to finish, you are dazzling and beautiful. Lin Yuze looked up, the sunlight casting a faint glow on his pale face. His smile was radiant. Mingyue, I only feel lucky. From youth to old age, your inner self has always been a shining soul. Just being close to you is an honor for me. Mingyue, will you marry me? With a whoosh, the moment Lin Yuze finished speaking, the curtain behind him automatically parted, revealing a wall full of portraits. Shin Mingyue was stunned. Every single portrait here was of her. There was one of her first stage performance, one of her smiling gracefully, and even one depicting her as an elderly woman, bearing a striking resemblance to her in her past life. After hearing that you harbor an old soul inside you, I painted this overnight, just from imagination. I don't know if it really looks like you, very similar, yet not quite. It resembled her aged appearance from her past life, yet carried the vitality and confidence of this lifetime. From these paintings, she could feel the artist's affection. It was his love for her. Yuze, Shin Mingyue suddenly called out to Lin Yuze. Let's get married this year. From now on, we'll be together, and you'll keep painting portraits of me. She wanted him to paint her for a lifetime, to treasure his love forever. Lin Yuze's eyes burst with joy, and he nodded emphatically. Okay. Before his voice faded, Shin Mingyue had already tiptoed and kissed him on the lips. She firmly believed that she would be happy for the rest of her life. The end.